Hi everybody, welcome back to another tutorial. Today I'm going to show you some more of the capabilities that you get within Giraffe. So today I'm going to show you how we can get started and start doing our context. We kind of skipped a few steps, so I could show you an overview of how Giraffe works, but now I thought I'd show you how we can get some context into our model. So let's navigate to a 2D view. As we can see, it sets us so that we have a north orientation. And now we're going to start baking in some of our context. So we'll actually pop back to a 3D view. And as we can see, we've got this building here. We've got some of the buildings, not too much context around us, really. We're in quite an industrial estate area and also quite a developing area. So at the moment, a lot of the modeled buildings is slightly out of date, so it's not completely up to date. So you are missing some of the buildings that you want. In that case, you then have the ability to then import your own context if you desire. Today's tutorial, I won't show you that. I'm just going to show you how you can quickly bake in some context. So let's move to another area, maybe a more built up area, just in terms of showing you this. So let's go to this here site. I think this is a great site here in Docklands on the harbour, and let's demonstrate how you can rapidly start to build up context. At the moment, we have no control over these buildings, and they're all currently grouped, and it's a lot of data weighing our file down. It might be slowly making our internet a little bit slower, etc. So what we can do is we can just lighten the opacity of that. And now we're going to click on these little three dots here. I'm going to go open lens control. And essentially this enables us to click each building and find out the data associated with it if we want. So now we're going to go add to current project. And now we can see that this building here has been added. And then we're just going to add that one. And what we can do is we can hold shift and hold a few of them buildings. And now we can see that by holding shift, it's added all of these buildings here. So what we can do is start to build up our data very, very, very quickly. So we're holding that add to project. And that's essentially how we can start to build up the context around our site in a very quick and smooth manner. Now, the next ability that we have is we can then start adding in other things that we might feel our model is missing. So I'll just add in these couple of buildings that I seem to have missed. Add to current project. There we go. Some good context showing. And so now when we turn this here off, we can see that this context here has already developed. So what we want to do is we want to change the layers of all of this context. So we might just rename this layer here. If we can do that, add new layer, context. Create. There we go, we've created a new layer. And what we might do is just dump this here into our, where did it go? Context layer. And we've just grouped it and we will call it close context. And now if we add other things to this, perhaps we make a new drawing layer and we call this context trees. We create that. And now we see that we're working in that layer. What we can then do is quickly add in some trees. Perhaps we want a tree here and maybe we want to rapidly draw some trees. So what we can do is go down the bottom here, and it is in one of these, this one here, as well as in this one. So let's just do it in this, the trees here, landscaping, and let's go deep plant. Actually, we'll go to flow builder because that's the quickest way. Perhaps we want to do a row of trees along this road. Do this, take the stretch, and maybe we'll navigate to a 2D view so we can get that in accurately and pop that there. And then we might have our trees do this. And maybe they'll do. And to finish that, we just click back to where we started and it'll just automatically realize that. And now let's say that we want 2 rows of trees. So what we can do is we can make this line slightly wider. And also then we can call it a row of trees and we can change how closely arrayed the trees are. So when we click on this here panel, it almost takes you to a visual database, almost a visual coding sort of program. And what we can do is, perhaps we want to offset it or perhaps we want to space it out. So perhaps we want our spacing to be a little bit more spaced. So let's say 20 meters. And then maybe we want to go to 10 meters. And so what it's going to do is it's going to go 1 tree, 20 meters, 10 meters for another tree, and so on. So let's do that. This will just keep following that sort of array. We can see the point that it makes here. Save changes, and now we can see how closely it's put our trees. And we might just doesn't need to be big. And so essentially opening up this flow builder here on anything, doesn't just have to be trees, enables you to really start to control what you're working with. So in this case, we can change it to be whatever we want, 1-bedroom unit. We don't want that though. So let's move it back to trees. And essentially what that would do is it would just pop it into 1-bedroom unit. I can show you, I guess, what it's going to look like. So it doesn't change it, but it changes the data that it holds. So we do have to be careful when we are playing around with the data here. It hasn't changed the visibility, but it has changed the data. And in some cases, in most cases, that's more important than what we're actually seeing. So let's change that back to, say, tree. So a lot of the time you don't need to click on that last panel. You're really just wanting to click on this first panel where you can control how the amount and the number that you get. Now, perhaps we're wanting to then add in some other vegetations, or we're wanting to add in some labels or some more data. What we can do is come up here. We'll stick with vegetation for today. I'll show you how to import data in the next tutorial. But for today, we'll just stick with the vegetation. And what we can then do is we can close off the visibility of our vegetation. So as we can see, our trees haven't moved. And the reason for that is because that they are in a different layer. First of all, we have this here. Now that we've changed it, it's messed up what our usage is. So just make sure that I save that next time. I forgot to save it. Here we go. Yep, perfect. And we can change it to have pine trees sitting there instead, which will change the visibility. We can then move this tree to over here. Oh, whoops, and we can move into a 3D view. Now we can change what our context is. So at the moment, this here doesn't have a usage. So let's change this usage here to be a industrial. And perhaps we want this one here to also be, well, I guess we can call it usage. Let's say, what else do they have here? A warehouse. Now say we're unhappy with some of those categories, we can actually go up along the side here to usages, clone this usage, and then give it a new name. So we can call it Docklands Boathouse, just in this case. And so now we can start to add in data if we want, change the color of it so we don't get confused. So let's maybe make it blue with a nice dark blue line to go with it. Pretty. And Control S will just save them changes, or we can click this save button here, close that. And let's make sure we set this to that building type. So Docklands Boathouse. There we go. We've added in a Docklands Boathouse, and we may as well make this one here Docklands Boathouse as well. And now we can see that even though these are both have the same properties that a warehouse would contain, they are both seen as noted as Docklands Boathouse. Likewise, we have the ability to control the visibility of our trees. This is particularly beneficial for when we're working in a top view. So with a simple mode, although they're not that aesthetic in this view here, we have a lot more control over how big our trees look. So setting how wide they look, setting how tall or small they are, as well as setting how stumpy or less stumpy they are. There we go. Oops, it seems to be lagging a little bit, but we can understand what our tree looks like. And when we navigate to a top view, it just creates a lot more of an aesthetic style, which is really, really good for diagramming. The other benefit about this is that when we go back to our 3D view, we then have the ability to create a view. So perhaps we're happy with this angle. We go to views here, we go add new view, and this will create a new view for us. We give it a name, perspective one. We can give it details if we want, goat house, goat shed. And then we can click that, and there. If we want, we can actually change the cover image that shows, but I quite like it having it set as the view that you get, because now we can see that that's the view you get. So say I, for some reason, move over here, I can click to this, and it will automatically take me to that view with these layers and visibility options turned on. So if I were to, let's say, move over here, and I go to layers, and let's say I turn off my default level, so you can see all the context has disappeared. When I go back to my views and navigate here, it automatically turns it back on because it remembers that that's how I had that view saved. I'll see you in the next tutorial to show you some more capabilities of modeling within Giraffe.